Hey y'all, I'm going to take you out and show you how to hang a door. If you follow these 5 simple steps, you can do it too. So come along and see how this goes. Hey y'all, this video here is not an entertainment video. It's a what I'm doing video on how I hang doors. To make it easier for any of you out there that have the need to hang a door. And these are the basic steps that I take in the process. And I wanted to get into telling you how and why I set the doors this way. First thing you got to do is you got to pull the little lock, temporary plastic lockies or whatever you want to call them. I have no idea what the technical word is, but the stuff that keeps the door from swinging open when it's being shipped. You got to get those on out of there. Once you have a door in the hole, you're not going to be able to remove it. The other thing is that I'm going to end up having to remove on this door is they put handles on the sides to make it easier to carry the doors around. And don't throw those handles away. They're really handy to use. Putting them on boxes, if you make your own boxes or get a wooden box or whatever, they're just pretty handy to have. But anyway, that's what we're doing now. We're just getting ready to drop it in the hole and try it and see how it fits in the hole. That's going to be our first step, is you drop the door in the hole and see how it fits. You want to know where you're going to have to shim and how much before you even get started. Here we got it fit in the hole. We're dropping it on in there, checking it on out. Got to remove the handles at the bottom. I'll show you a picture here in a second of what the handle looks like. It's not a good quality picture, but you'll see what I mean by the handles. They can be useful for other things. Like I said, it's not a good quality picture. Yeah, some of the tools that you're going to need, you're going to want to have a screw gun. A drill comes in handy if you don't have the impact driver to pre-drill the holes if needed. You're going to, it's nice to have a 6'6" level, but most of you ain't going to have that. And I didn't have my 6 foot level with me today when I did this door. But now I got to check the inside. I'm checking to see, about where I want to need the hinges and how much, how much I'm going to need to level it in to fit if the opening's not perfectly level. You got to work out the details. Now I have that worked on out. I'm taking the door back on out, and we'll go to the next part. But I don't nail any part of my doors on in. I use all screws. Now on finished door, when I'm doing interior doors, it's a different scenario. But on these exterior doors, even the trim, where the jambs are nailed on, and I never nail any of that. Now what I do is on the inside when I'm doing a house, is I put glue on the jamb itself to glue the trim on, and then when I glue and nail the trim to the jamb, and then I nail that to the wall, that locks out on in. One thing I forgot to do while I had the door on in the opening was I did forget to put to mark where the hinges were going to be on the door opening. So I went back, had to go back and measure here and set the height. And I like to mark the top. These shims that I'm using, I like to use the 4-inch wide shims. You don't buy those out of the little shim packs. Just siding shingles is what I'm using here. Here what I'm doing is I'm leveling down to set my lower shims to, because I want the top shims and the lower shims to be exactly level with each other. that's exactly where I'm going to be screwing through the hinges and into the framing of the front framing to give those hinges a good locking bind where they're not going to shift, they're not going to move. So this part of it is really critical that those shims are perfect placing, you know, whether it be for thickness, for shimming in and out on the door, as well as that they're in the right location for where both the 3-inch screws that you run through the 2 hinges are going to be right in the right place. Once you know that they're exactly the way that you want, then nail that bottom set of shims on in. Score both sides. When you go to break your shims off, score both. But I like to use wider ones. When I'm snapping those shims off like that, I like to score both sides of the shim so that I get a cleaner break on them. Okay, here we're dropping the door back in the hole. Looking at it, double checking everything. Yeah, I gotta keep this where I can see it better. My lighting's not the best on in this video, I understand that. But I'm looking at the reveals and everything. Now here I've got to tip the door down because the left-hand side of the door, the hinge side of the door, needs to lift on up a little bit. So we're tipping the door back so I can get in here and I can get a shim underneath the door jamb itself. And then we tip it back, that lifts the door on up so I can get the top reveal to be good. Okay, hold on. See, that's one of the nice things when you're using screws too. If you do something wrong, it's easy to back the screw on out and check it. Now at this point here, I want to shim the top of the door over towards the hinge side to get the hinge side of the jamb straight in line so I got a nice reveal up and down on the reveal on the hinge side. Now one thing I've noticed with pre-hung doors, for exterior doors where you got the threshold in the bottom, quite often the top will be a little bit wider than the bottom. So that can create a problem, so you got to go with it and you got to kind of work with it. Okay, now I'm putting one screw in on each of the hinges all the way through the jamb and on into the framing, you know, to get that door locked on in. And then I'll be able to fine tune that fine line all the way again down on the hinge side. Yep, and it looks good. If you do your homework the first time, you know how much you got to shim and work it. Okay, now what I do here is in behind the weather stripping, I pull the weather stripping back a little bit. You'll see a couple places in the videos where I get a better close-up showing me doing that. I pull the weather stripping back and I run the screw in behind the weather stripping so you don't see it. You can use screws, you can use nails or whatever, and you can put it out in the open and use putty in the holes and stuff. I don't like having to use putty. Any of that stuff will shrink and crack. I've never found anything that doesn't shrink and separate in time. So I like to do everything, you know, we call it blind screen, blind nailing, whatever. I like to hide all that stuff as most as I can. And it makes a lot less putty and involved, you know, which anybody that's done a lot of putty and knows that, hey, you know what, that can be time consuming on a job. When you're using screws like this here, if you got to do a little bit more of an adjustment, you can always back the screw on out, add a little bit more shim in there, or take a little bit of shim on out. It's easy to do at this point. If you nail it, it makes it a little bit more difficult. Now keep in mind, when I'm talking about using screws, I'm talking about using them in blind locations where you're not going to see them. If you're going to be putting them out in the open, then use nails. And while all at it, I'm going to describe something. If you're doing an interior door, basically start out the same way I did. Put the shims right where the two hinges are going to be, the upper hinge and the lower shim. And shim in the basics of it and have a nice 6'6" level or straight edge. And have a finish gun. So when you do the other sides, you can use that level or the straight edge to straighten things on out and get a can of non-expanding spray foam. You can spray that in behind and work that and shoot the nails through the jamb and then squirt that spray foam in. You can take a flat bar, you can work it some more if you need to. But when that spray foam sets up, it will actually glue the frame on into place. It gives it good solid support and it makes it really easy to do. Maybe one of these days, if I get an interior door to install for somebody, I'll make a video on that. Like it, Pat? Like it, Pat?
Better, Becky! Get over here then!
Here I'm working to bring the bottom of the threshold. I need to bring it over a little bit to the inside. And it is a little crowded, a little tighter than I like to have typically when I do that. Every time you put a screw on in or a nail in, check every point of the door. Look all the way around, because everything a person does to a door has a cause and effect. So what you do on one side of the door will have a little bit of effect on the other side, and that's the time to catch it. Now, I do got to give warning if it hasn't happened yet. I don't have the volume up, but there is going to be some dog yipping. If it already hasn't happened, what it is this little, not that one, that black and white Chihuahua, he got on into the electric fence there. He wasn't hurt at all, but it sure startled him. Doing a little bit more fine tuning on the shims there to edge one side over just a wee bit more. Now sometimes you want to, if you got to hit the shim a little bit harder, use a block so you don't split your shim up. You spread the distribution of the hip. Like I'm using here, I'm using a block to drive that wedge in just a little bit more. I'm going back and adding more screws on into the doors. There that is. Oh no, I take that back. I loosened the screw that I had in. What I was doing there, I loosened up the screw so I could drive that shim in just a little bit more. Now I'm running that screw back on in. On the outside of the door, you notice it has brick mold. Typically on that there, I'd use 16-penny casing nails to nail on the outside through that. In this particular case, that casing is going to, that brick mold casing or trim is going to come off, and we're going to put natural wood on there. There, I took the remainder screw on out and added another 3-inch screw on in to give it more strength for the door. Not only that, adding the 3-inch screws, because somebody wants to kick that door down, it's going to take them a lot of work. Whereas if it was just a standard little 1-inch screws or 3/4-inch screws, it's pretty easy to just put out the frame on the door and kick the door down. But you want to use 3-inch screws on in here. And you want to make sure that the screws that you use don't have too thick of a head to where when the door closes, the screw is sticking on out. That creates a hinge bind and will wear out your hinges. You'll also throw your door out of whack when you close it. It'll push it over to the other side, closing up that gap.
Yeah,
you thought you had that thread. I'd use 8-penny nails. For starters, anyway.
Couldn't find anything to match, but I just didn't follow it. I was at Home Depot and I looked and I matched this kind of
Yeah, when you're putting the latches on in, it's not recommended that you use a screw gun. It's recommended that you do it by hand. I use a screw gun. Be it when you do that, you have to be careful that you don't let it rub on the doorknob and spin it and scar it. You know, I don't tighten it up with the screw gun. I just run it on in to get the screw on in. I finish up with a hand screwdriver. It's pretty important too when you're putting these doorknobs on in that you don't over tighten the screws. You know, you can end up getting your doorknob to kind of lock up to where it doesn't work properly. So you want everything to work freely. So that's why I like to finish up using a hand screwdriver where I don't over tighten. But you don't want it too loose either, where the doorknob's going to be sloppy and the hole sliding up and down. You know, one problem with having a beard is it gets in my way. I can't see through it.
Oh, shit.
And when I'm messing with this stuff here, this is where it kind of gets to be kind of a pain to have a beard. I had to end up tucking my beard down inside my shirt so I wouldn't be blocking my vision, looking down and trying to see where to get the screws to line up on the doorknob. Some of the older doorknobs are pretty nice to use. I mean, when you just slip them on in together, they had a little sleeve that they slid together in, so lining up the screws with them was really easy. But most of the doorknobs anymore, they don't do that anymore, and it's not that easy to line them up. A person that does this on a regular basis, they get used to it, and they're pretty slick at getting things to line on up.
Does it come with plugs? Window, did it come with plugs? Did it come with plugs? Plug.
Now keep in mind, this is not a camera set or nothing else. So of course there's going to be people walking back and forth in between, between the camera and what I'm doing and stuff. I did my best to edit out a lot of large portions of it, but sometimes I let some of it just slip on through. That's where I'm hand tightening it with the screwdriver. Use the right bit though. Now when the homeowner had gotten the lock set, he didn't get the deadbolt. I think I point that out later on in the video. But I don't have the deadbolt set yet. I will be going back over there tomorrow. He has a bathroom sink that needs to be repaired. I didn't build that house. But there's a bathroom sink that's got some water leaks that I got to do a repair for him on. And I told him if he had the deadbolt lock, then I'd install it at that time. But that's when I will actually finish up with the line of the door. You can see up higher up, it's letting some light through the crack of the door. That needs to be kind of pulled on in. But when I shim in for the deadbolt, it will change things a little bit there. And I'd like to have that deadbolt on in and shimmed and locked down tight before I adjust the rest of the way up on the rebuild. But I want to make sure that when I shim this on in, see, I'm putting the striker plate on in, and I'm putting 2 3-inch long screws through the striker plate to go right into the framing too. So I want to make sure that that is shimmed in to the right spacing that I want for the rebuild. The long striker, screws through the striker plate, that really does help prevent somebody from kicking through your door. So even on your bedroom doors, when I'm building, when I was building houses and stuff, I would do the same thing through the bedroom doors. I'd put long striker, I'd put long screws through there. I know the door locks are not the basis, but if somebody is breaking into your house, you want your kids to be safe too. Now this is where I was talking about earlier, having a nice long straight edge. It'd be a whole lot better if I had a 6'6" straight edge that went from top to bottom of that door to line up everything perfectly in line. I don't have that here. All I got is a 4-foot straight edge. Makes the job a little bit more difficult. You got the reveal set where I like it. putting the 3-inch screws. I started out, if I remember right, I grabbed some 2.5-inch screws. Grabbed the wrong ones. And so I took it back out and went and got a 3-inch screw. Oh, yeah, I show you here, I believe. Yeah, you can't see it, but I was showing I grabbed a longer screw there. But I had the wrong bit for it. When you close the door, if it's wanting to spring back, you got hinge bind. Now in this case I didn't have any hinge bind there. But when you close that door, either you got too thick of screws going through your hinges, which trying to push the door back open, or you got the door shimmed in. The door shims aren't parallel, so it's making the frame want to twist like this here, which makes it harder to close the door. Keep all that stuff in mind. Yeah, I'm putting a blind screw as well back behind underneath the weather stripping there. Hey y'all, on this side of the door here, there's still a little bit more gap. I need to bring more of a shim in. I don't have the deadbolt today for it to install. What I just did with this flap here, I'll be doing the same thing. Put some white shims here, I'll be able to work this in and bring this parallel on with that. At that point, if there's still a kink, then I will throw another shim in here.
Do it now? You think you'll have time to do the side? How you feeling?
Now I already have one 3-inch screw through the hinges locking the door on in. Now I'm putting a second 3-inch screw. So each hinge will have two 3-inch screws going through them. If you only have three 3-inch screws, put 2 of them in the top and only 1 in the bottom, because the weight of the door hangs mainly on the upper one. The lower one is usually just pressing on into it, so it doesn't require as much. Although it would make it easier to kick the bottom of the door in. Well, y'all, I hope that was easy for you to understand. I hope that was helpful tips for you. Try it yourself sometime. Revert to this video, tell your friends, and don't be afraid to share this video for those that need it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And check out my Teespring stores. It's in the descriptions below. Just remember, folks, if the girls don't find you handsome like me, they can find you handy like me. And if they don't find you handy like me, well, you're just shit out of luck.